Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than I want a trailer for the live-action Titan series. I'm your host, Arris. This past Wednesday, DC Comics released issue 4 of Jeff Johns and Gary Frank's Doomsday Clock series. And I won't be getting into details or spoilers yet, but I will say continue to focus on Rorschach, which not surprisingly really has my Watchmen gears turning. Like many of you, Rorschach is my favorite Watchmen member. So for today, let's do something a little different and take a look at one of Rorschach's main features, his mask, and what makes it work. Believe it or not, his mask's function is explained in the original Watchmen title, issue 6 to be exact. Now, I know some of you remember that, but I'm sure a bunch of you don't or have just never read the original Watchmen series. To which I say, head over to your local comic shop right after this video and buy it. If you don't live next to a comic shop, download it on the Comixology website. It's definitely one of the comics that should be on everyone's comics to read before I die list. Actually, we should do a top 10 comics you need to read before you die episode. What do you guys think? Let us take a vote, shall we? Click the link in the description to vote in the poll and let us know whether you'd like to see that episode or not. Anyway, let's get back to Rorschach's mask. The first thing you need to know is that Walter Joseph Kovac, aka Rorschach, refers to it as his face.
Where's my face?
To him, this is his real face. But how did it come to be? And more importantly, how the heck does it work? Well, it all started with his extremely terrible childhood. His father was MIA, and his mother was a prostitute who hated him, called him ugly, and would tell him that she should have had an abortion. So he didn't have the ideal childhood, and eventually he ended up in a children's home. By 1956, when Walter was only 16, he left the children's home and became an unskilled worker for a garment company. It was there that he would discover the fabric that eventually became his mask. Then in 1962, a special order came in for a dress, and the fabric that the dress would be made of had viscous fluids between 2 layers of latex. These fluids were in constant motion, and their movement and pattern were affected by heat and pressure. With that said, the black and white colors never combined to form gray, because the patterns made would also always maintain a constant and consistent symmetrical pattern down the middle of whatever shape the fabric has been cut and formed into. Long story short, the dress was made, but the Italian woman who ordered it thought the dress looked ugly. However, Rorschach didn't think so, and he says, wrong, not ugly at all. He took the dress and said, nobody wanted it, meant for me. Took it home, learned to cut it using heated implements to reseal latex. He goes on to say, when I cut it enough, it didn't look like a woman anymore. We then see that he's telling all of this to Dr. Malcolm, and he goes on to tell him, soon, became bored. Fabric had no use. Left it in trunk, forgot about it. 2 years later, he sees in the paper that the woman who ordered the dress was killed while neighbors watched. Rorschach goes on to tell the doctor she was raped, tortured, and killed outside her own New York apartment. Several neighbors heard and even watched, yet nobody helped. No one even called the cops. He then says, I knew what people were then, behind all the evasions, all the self-deception. Ashamed for humanity, I went home, I took the remains of her unwanted dress, and I made a face that I could bear to look at in the mirror. The doctor finally responds and says, a face, I see. In the end, we have both the origin of Rorschach's mask and how it works. You see, to Rorschach, his mask is his true face or real face, because the fluids in it react to his expressions and heat signature. However, Rorschach the man, without his mask, aka Walter, never really shows any facial expressions or emotion except anger or indifference. So when he says stuff like, my face! Give me back my face! In a way, he's being serious. It's just a fascinating concept that explores the effects of the ugly side of humanity on the individual, and what we do to mask how we feel or what we think. It's also interesting that unlike most masks, which are simply meant to cover the face and hide emotion, Rorschach's mask is meant to constantly display the emotion he feels in the moment, which is pretty awesome. But there you have it, my comic comrades. If you didn't know, now you do. And before we wrap this up, let me thank our sponsor for making this episode possible. Domain.com is a one-stop shop for domains, websites, and reliable web hosting. From .com to .net domain names to intuitive website builders, they've got all your website needs covered. Domain.com is awesome. They're affordable, reliable, and have all the tools you need to build a new website. And with affordable everyday pricing on .com domains, you can easily start sharing your ideas with the world on a professional website. After all, no domain extension will help you tell your story like a .com or .net domain name. And if you want to brand yourself online, Domain.com has over 300 domain extensions to fit your needs, from .club to .space. And if that's not enough, the guys at Domain are also great friends of Variant. And to show their love, they're giving you 15% off their already affordable prices on domain names, web hosting, and email when you use the coupon code Variant at checkout. So take that first step to creating an identity online. And when you think domain names, think Domain.com. But just like that, that brings today's episode to a close. But remember to follow us on social media like our Instagram, our Twitter, our Facebook, and our website. All the links for that is in the description description below. And if you like the channel, be sure to subscribe and then hit the bell next to it so you're notified whenever we upload a new video. But I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.